Before I begin, allow me to address the elephant in the room. I know it's been, over 3 weeks, almost a month since we posted any sort of content on YouTube. And for those of you that have been paying attention and have seen our last couple of community posts, then you might know what's going on. But to everybody else, in the last 3 weeks to a month, not only have I had to deal with COVID, I also suffered a foot contusion while playing basketball. I've been out of the studio, and I've just been spending a lot more time with family, my parents in particular. And so major apologies to all of you guys. I know we haven't been posting, but all of 2022, I promise you guys, we've been cooking up a whole lot of stuff. We got a whole lot of things planned for you guys. And happy belated 2022. I'm ready. I hope you guys are to make 2022 our best year just yet. Now that we got that aside, is Rashaad Penny the future at running back for the Seattle Seahawks? But before we do that, I've been using Twitter a lot more, so be sure to show us some love. Hit us with a follow on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, at SteezySmith. And real soon, we'll be starting up a whole bunch of different live streams. We'll have a weekly live stream show. More details will soon follow, so definitely be sure to stay tuned for all that. Now, let's dive into it, shall we?
Here comes the, y'all don't really want it like that. Yeah. Here comes the.
Before we hop in, allow us to take a trip down memory lane. So prior to the season starting, last offseason, Seattle actually declined Rashaad Penny's fifth-year option, signaling that his future in Seattle and potentially in the NFL could possibly be in limbo, in doubt. In 4 seasons, he's had a possible 65 games to be played. He's only played in 37, or 57% of those games. And so it's not hard to see why Seattle declined his option, given that he struggled to stay healthy. And not only that, rewind maybe 5-6 weeks ago from today's date, and here's what Rashaad Penny's stat line looked: 27 carries for 78 yards and an abysmal 2.89 yards per carry. You would think, or you would assume 5-6 weeks prior to now that, oh man, Rashaad Penny is just going to be another wasted first round pick of the John Schneider and the Pete Carroll era. But if you fast forward to the end of the regular season, which we've just witnessed, Rashaad Penny finished the year as the running back leader in yards per carry. He was tied with Josh Allen for the outright lead and yards per carry king at 6.3. He finished the season with a career high in rushing yards with 749, which was 91% of the rushing production that he had in 3 seasons prior. He put up this year in 10 games. So out of 17, he played 10. Not only that, on the year, Seattle averaged an okay middle of the pack 23.2 points per game. And before Rashaad Penny's emergence in the final 5 to 6 weeks of the season, Seattle was averaging under 20 points a game, which is totally unacceptable, especially relative to the talent available on the roster, even with the Russell Wilson injury notwithstanding. Yes, he missed a couple of games, and yes, he wasn't right for a few more, but DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, in the 4 games that Chris Carson played, you have a top-tier left tackle in Dwayne Brown. You have who's supposed to be an offensive wizard in Shane Waldron. There's absolutely no excuse after the Seattle Seahawks be averaging under 20 points a game, 19.9. That is absolutely pathetic. But then Rashaad Penny came along, and then they were able to bump that up from 19.9 to a much more respectable 23.2. In the 5 to 6 weeks that Rashaad Penny went off, Seattle's offense scored on average over 30 points a game, 31.6 to be exact. And prior to the Rashaad Penny emergence, Seattle was actually in the bottom 5 in rushing yards per game as a football team, barely cracking 90 a game. Think about that for a second. A team with Pete Carroll as the head coach, a team that prides itself on wanting to run the football, a team that has an identity where they want to run the football. They're barely cracking 90 yards a game. I understand Chris Carson missed a huge chunk of the season due to a neck injury. He only played in 4 games. And as a matter of fact, out of 81 possible games, Chris Carson has only played 49. So 60% of the games in his career. And now I know before the year I talked about how he's not as injury prone as other people perceive him to be. He just happens to get injured at the worst of times for the Seahawks. And that again happened this year, up until Rashaad Penny's emergence. And so when I asked, is Rashaad Penny the future at running back for the Seattle Seahawks, that doesn't necessarily mean that Chris Carson is going to get kicked to the curb and Rashaad Penny's all of a sudden going to be the guy and the only guy. Both these guys can coexist. You know, Chris Carson, he is that sort of running back in which he's going to get a whole bunch of yards after contact. He's going to gain those hard chunk yards, and he's gonna earn it every single play. He's gonna keep those legs churning, and he's gonna fight for each and every single yard that he gets. Rashaad Penny compliments him well. Not only is he the type of guy that can get around the edge, that can hit the open holes, and that could just use his amazing blend of speed and power to make big plays. He's a big play waiting to happen. I can see those two running styles coexisting. Rashaad Penny can be the thunder to Chris Carson's lightning. Given the health issues that both have suffered, can Seattle survive with just these two atop their depth chart, or does Seattle potentially need to bring in another option, maybe through the draft or through free agency? I guess we'll see. I don't think Rashaad Penny will break any sort of record as far as what his next contract could potentially look like. As we all saw with Chris Carson's contract last season, he didn't break the bank. A lot of people didn't expect him to come back because a lot of folks were thinking that Seattle wasn't going to give him what he wanted on the open market, but the market for his services wasn't ideal. It wasn't what he wanted. And so Rashaad Penny, given all those injury woes and the inconsistencies, I don't know if he's going to get a huge contract. He's going to get a contract laced with incentives. He's going to get a contract, tied to performance related incentives and whatnot, and maybe depending on how many games he could play, but he most definitely has earned himself another contract with the Seattle Seahawks. Before we dive into all the stats and whatnot, I absolutely think he's the future of the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, you saw how he was able to change the dynamics of this offense as soon as he was able to emerge as a threat on the ground. I mean, 135 plus yards in 4 of 5 games in the last 5 to 6 weeks of the season, a career high 190 against a defense as competent as Arizona's. Now, Arizona might not have been a top 10 defense that they were earlier in the year, especially without a JJ Watt, but the Arizona Cardinals are no pushover. And to push for almost 200 yards in the season finale, when everyone knows that you've been on this run, you've been on this tear. Matter of fact, I wouldn't even fault you if you're just a casual fan and I would have asked you, who was the best running back in the NFL in the last month or so? I wouldn't fault you if you would have said Jonathan Taylor, or maybe he's not quite there yet, but Najee Harris, or he missed some games, Dalvin Cook, he also missed some games, Nick Chubb. But Rashaad Penny led the league in rushing in the last 5 to 6 weeks of the season by over 208. Oh my gosh. He had 208 more rushing yards than the second best leading rusher in that same span, Jonathan Taylor. Allow me to be clear, this is not a typo. Here are the numbers. In the last 5 weeks of the season, Rashaad Penny had 671 rushing yards. He had 485 yards after contact. Jonathan Taylor total rushing yards in that same span, 463. Nothing to sneeze at, especially because he was a potential MVP candidate, but 463 to Rashaad Penny 671? My goodness. If extrapolated throughout the course of a full 17-game season, this probably wouldn't have happened, but Rashaad Penny would have ran for well over 2,200 yards. He would have broken the record by over a couple hundred yards. Again, he would have broke the rushing record held by Eric Dickerson by over 200 yards if you were to extrapolate his numbers over the course of a 17-game season on the pace that he was currently at. And I don't know if I finished my statistic from earlier. Seattle's offense ended up finishing the year 11th in rushing yards a game, 122.5. They went from barely cracking 90 to being in the bottom 5 to eventually finding their way just outside the top 10 in rushing, 122.5 a game. That just completely changed the complexion of Seattle's offense with a running game that was finally alive. Play action worked to Russell Wilson and that offense's benefit tremendously. The offense looked a lot better, and like I said, averaged north of 30 points a game. I understand some of those defenses were absolutely horrendous. I mean, the Houston Texans, Detroit Lions, Chicago Bears, no one's going to confuse any of those defenses for being anywhere near the league's elite. But the Arizona Cardinals, like I said, they're somewhat competent. And I know against the Rams, he only had about, 39 rushing yards. But he wasn't going to rush for over 100 in every single one of them. Matter of fact, Rashaad Penny is actually the first running back since 2018, since Derrick Henry, to rush for 170 plus yards in back-to-back football games. Nobody ever does that in the league anymore, especially given how pass-heavy the league has become. Seattle's offense just looked completely different. Rashaad Penny, maybe he's always had the vision, but more so than ever this year, he displayed excellent vision. He was hitting holes with intensity, with purpose, and like Adrian Peterson said, try to hit them and try to attack them before they attack you. He just looked like a completely different runner, and I thought that with Seattle bringing in Adrian Peterson, I thought that his impact not only came off the field as a leader and as a guy that would motivate the guys, but I mean, I didn't foresee him being the sort of coach and the mentor that he was for Rashaad Penny. And so I like to think that if Rashaad Penny's to be re-signed and to be brought back on hopefully a team-friendly deal, Adrian Peterson comes along. And maybe he's not willing to be an assistant coach just yet, just because he's not intent on retiring. But if he can't find a role as a backup running back or as a depth running back for any other team, even the Seahawks, then I don't see why he wouldn't come back to return as a coach of the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, I'm not going to say he's the biggest factor behind Rashaad Penny's emergence, but he definitely played a major role. He's an important nugget. So there were 2 running backs drafted in the 2018 draft, right? In the first round. Saquon Barkley went number 2 overall to the New York Giants. And Rashaad Penny went 27th overall to the Seattle Seahawks over the likes of Nick Chubb and so many other running backs. Let's not forget, at San Diego State University, he absolutely tore it up, was rushing for 2,000 plus yards like it was nothing, and his insane talent just shined and excelled. And that's why Seattle took him where they took him. And Seattle's had opportunities to trade him. They never did. Saquon Barkley, while he's been injury prone, Rashaad Penny as well, he's played 5 more games than Rashaad Penny in the last 2 years. So if you compare Saquon Barkley's last 2 seasons, in which he's played 15 games, to Rashaad Penny's 10 games this year, Saquon wasn't even close in terms of total rushing yards in his last 2 years. Saquon Barkley had 627 in 2 years. Rashaad Penny had 749 just this year. And I'm not saying that Rashaad Penny's better than Saquon Barkley. I'm not that crazy. Given both of the injury histories, the fact that Rashaad Penny has more in 10 games and 5 less games than Saquon Barkley had in 15, I think that's somewhat telling. Both offensive lines have been bad, right? I don't know how much focus, I don't know how much thought you guys put on Pro Football Focus, but he was ranked as the 10th best running back across all running backs. PFF graded him with a rating over 80 and a half to be exact. And so that's always a good thing. I mean, Pro Football Focus, I like to think they know their football. And so that's definitely reliable. Although Pro Football Focus is not always known for making the best of decisions, but I'll take that. Here's another nugget. 52%. That is right. It's not a typo. 52% of Rashaad Penny's total rushing yards came on runs of 15 plus yards. That blend of power and that vision and that speed and the cutback ability, my goodness, he is going to be a problem for years to come. And if he and Chris Carson can coexist in the same backfield, if both these guys can stay relatively healthy, the rest of the NFL better watch out, because Rashaad Penny is a real deal. He's not just doing this against bum defenses. I mean, again, the Arizona Cardinals, they're not a bum defense. And so that being said, I know a lot of teams are going to be doing their homework. I know a lot of teams are going to be reading and watching a whole lot of film this offseason, but I kid you guys not, Rashaad Penny is no doubt, in my mind, the future at running back along with the Seattle Seahawks. And ideally, he'll form a dynamic 1-2 duo at running back for the Seattle Seahawks, him and Chris Carson, if they both stay healthy. Actually, here's a few more important statistics. Chris Carson's career high in rushing, 133. In 4 or 5 games, Rashaad Penny ran for 135 plus. So he been broke Chris Carson's single game rushing record, or at least his career high. Rashaad Penny also finished 3rd in the NFL in explosive plays, or should I say 20 plus yard plays. So in only 10 games, he finished 3rd in the entire NFL? After Jonathan Taylor and Nick Chubb? 6 runs of 30 plus yards on the year? This guy was just absolutely unbelievable. He also led the league. And shout out to Sam Monson of Pro Football Focus. Y'all definitely gotta follow him, subscribe to him on YouTube. He does a terrific job breaking down film and analyzing a whole bunch of things. Rashaad Penny led the league in yards over expected at 1.8. And so basically and essentially what this means, which is what Sam was talking about, was Rashaad Penny gained about, on average, 1.8, or let's just say for the sake of argument, Rashaad Penny gained 2 yards over what was expected given what his offensive line gave him. And to lead the NFL in that metric is just absolutely phenomenal. It speaks to his skill set. It just shows you why he was drafted in the first round to begin with. Top 2 in the NFL in forced missed tackles with over 27? What can't this guy do? Maybe he's not the best pass catcher. Maybe he can't stay healthy. But other than that, I don't see what he can't do. His potential is limitless. It knows no bounds. If Seattle is to bring him back and he stays healthy, he's no doubt an RB1 next year. I can't wait to see what he's going to do in Seattle for years to come. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Is Rashaad Penny the future at running back for the Seattle Seahawks? Or would you guys like to see him and Chris Carson coexist? Would you guys like to see Chris Carson released? Maybe traded to a different team? Let me know what you guys think down below. Let me also know your thoughts on what his contract is possibly going to look like. I mean, yes, he's had all this success, but at the same time, we can't ignore what happened in the first 3 to 4 years. If you guys have other options for Seattle to bring in as you know, not competition, but as potential backup to Rashaad Penny. Also, be sure to let us know your thoughts down below. Be sure to stay tuned for our next episode. It will be about who's going to stay longer in the Pacific Northwest. Is it Russell Wilson? Or, here's a little twist, is it NBA superstar Damian Lillard with the Portland Trail Blazers? All that and more in the future, so definitely stay tuned. Again, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Steezy Smith. We've definitely been trying to use those social media platforms as much as possible. Again, nothing but love. As always, all glory to God. Amen. Nothing but love, y'all. And Steezy out. Again, this video is going to be dedicated to Mr. Todd Nas. While that concludes this video, we have loads of other content. You don't have to stop watching there. Other content on our channel homepage, as well as our social media platforms. And again, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for us. Tell a friend and tell a friend. Nothing but love, and Steezy out.